Good morning, students. In this video, we will continue the explanation of Chapter 6, Combustion and Flame. In Part 1 explanation of the chapter, we learned about the process of combustion and different factors responsible for combustion to take place. Now, we will continue the chapter with the topic, How do we control fire? Children's, burning or combustion produces fire. Fire is useful as well as harmful. We make small fire in a gas stove to cook food. This is a useful example of fire. And if the same fire, when it breaks out in a house or in an office due to some accident or something, then we will take it as an example of harmful fire. It can cause loss of life and property as well. Such fires must be brought under control and extinguished at earliest. Okay, so the process of extinguishing a fire is called fire fighting. Students, if a fire breaks out in our house or in our neighborhood, the first thing which we should do is to call the fire service. So every one of us should know the contact number of the fire service. Secondly, we should know the different ways of fire fighting or putting it off. Students, you have already learnt that for combustion of a substance requires certain factors. What were they? Fuel, the presence of combustible substance. Secondly, air, that is the oxygen for the supporter of fire. And thirdly, heat, which is necessary to reach the ignition temperature. So, if we are going to remove any of this, we will we will get success in extinguishing the fire, as all the presence of all these three support the fire. So if we will remove any of this, then it will help us to extinguish the fire. So what are the different ways in which fire can be extinguished? First, by removing the fuel, that is that combustible substances. Secondly, by removing the heat, that is by cooling the material with the help of water or some other substance. And thirdly, by cutting off the air supply to the burning substance, which the air which supplies oxygen to the fire. So we have to cut that supply so that the fire will get extinguished. We are going to discuss all these ways one by one. So let's start with the first way of extinguishing fire, that is by removing the fuel. Students, a fuel or combustible substance is a food for fire. Means as much food will be there, that much long burning will takes place. So what we can do? We can reduce the amount of food, that is the fuel. Whenever the fire starts in a room, all the combustible substances like furniture, clothes, books, tables, chairs, means all these furnitures, cooking gas cylinder, etc. It should be, which can burn easily, it should be removed so that fire may not spread. Okay. However, children, it is not possible to remove all the combustible materials from the place of fire. Now, moving ahead, another method of extinguishing fire is by removing the heat. And how it can be done? By using water. Use of water to douse the flame is the most basic method of controlling fire. Students, how water is as an extinguisher extinguish the fire? See, when water is thrown on a burning substance, the substance gets cooled so that its temperature brought below its ignition temperature and it will stop burning. This is one of the way water works. Secondly, you all know, when we throw water on a burning substance, water vapor is produced due to heat of fire on water. This vapor will surround the burning material and help in cutting off the supply of air. So students, water works in two ways to control the fire. Firstly, it will bring the temperature of burning material below its ignition temperature. And secondly, the water vapor forms a blanket around the burning material and thus cut the supply of air. Okay. But students, Water is not a good extinguisher for electrical and oil fires. And why is it so? You all know that water is a good conductor of electricity. So, when water is thrown over the burning electrical appliance or burning electrical wires, it can give electric shock to the person involved in fire fighting. Thus, water cannot be used to extinguish the fire caused by electricity. Okay. Now, when you will see fire produced by burning oil or petrol, there also we can't make use of water as an extinguisher. Why? Because whenever water is heavier than oil and petrol. So when you will throw the water on the burning oil or petrol, means if the fire is due to oil or petrol, when you will throw the water on it, what will happen? It is heavier, so it will settle down. Water will settle down and the oil will floats on water. You all know it very well that if you will try to mix oil and water, what will happen? Oil will float and water will settle down. So due to which what happened, the fire is going to be get continue. Okay, it will not get extinguished. That's why we can't make use of water to extinguish the fire due to oil also. Then how we are going to extinguish in these cases? For electrical and oil fires, it is good to use carbon dioxide as an extinguisher. Next, we will learn the third way of extinguishing fire, that is by cutting off the air supply to the burning substances. The air supply to a burning substance can be cut off in a number of ways, such as a small fire can be extinguished by throwing sand over it. For example, when sand is thrown over burning kerosene oil, the sand covers it like a blanket and it cuts off the air supply to the burning substance and thus fire get extinguished. In the same manner, you can take another example. If the clothes of a person working in the kitchen catch fire, the person is immediately covered with a blanket. When the burning clothes of a person are covered with blanket, it all again cuts the supply of air to the burning clothes and thus the burning stops. Students, just now I told you that the electrical or the oil fires are extinguished by using carbon dioxide gas. It also helps in cutting the supply of air. Let's learn how CO2, that is carbon dioxide gas, helps in extinguishing fire. See, carbon dioxide gas being heavier than oxygen covers the fire like a blanket. Since the contact between the fuel and the oxygen is cut off, the fire is controlled. Now, let's learn from where we get the supply of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide used for extinguishing fire, it can be stored as a liquid at high pressure in cylinders. That is called fire extinguishers. Maybe you have seen in your school buildings or in other big buildings or malls and all. Okay. When released from the cylinder, carbon dioxide expands enormously in volume. Means in a large volume it expands and cools down. In this way, it forms a blanket around the burning substance. And it also cools down the material. Another way to obtain carbon dioxide for extinguishing a fire is to release a lot of dry powder of chemicals like sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda, or potassium bicarbonate over the fire. These chemicals to produce reacts with the fire and it produces carbon dioxide gas. Now we will learn different types of combustion: rapid combustion, spontaneous combustion and explosive combustion. Let's see what is rapid combustion. Students, have you observed when you bring lighted matchstick near the burner of cooking gas in kitchen? It immediately starts burning, producing heat and light. Such combustion is known as rapid combustion. So, how you are going to define it? See, the combustion in which a large amount of heat and light are produced in a short time is called rapid combustion. Next is the spontaneous combustion. See, in a spontaneous combustion, the substance suddenly bursts into flames and starts burning, even without being heated. Means we are not supplying any source of heat, but that substance will suddenly burnt into burst into flames. Okay, it takes place at room temperature itself. Students, you all have learnt about the burning of phosphorus. It is an example of this spontaneous combustion. If you remember this, we have learned that phosphorus easily reacts with air and catches fire by itself at room temperature. Another example you can take, in coal mines, also coal dust catches fire naturally, leading to death of many peoples working over there. Forest fire is also an example of spontaneous combustion only, children, which takes place due to heat of sun or lightning from the sky. So, how you are going to define a spontaneous combustion? The combustion which occurs on its own without the help of any external heat is called spontaneous combustion. Now, the third type of combustion is explosive combustion. Children, when we burn crackers during festival, it produces heat, light and a large volume of gases. It is an example of explosive combustion. Means an explosion takes place in that cracker. Okay, that's why it is called explosive combustion. So, how we are going to define it? A very fast combustion in which a large amount of heat, light and sound are produced is called explosive combustion. With this, I end up over here.